All right, everyone. Rural voters get a lot of flack from urbanites, generally speaking, just as urban voters get flack from rural America. You shouldn't pigeonhole them, though. For instance, I come from the state of Vermont. Vermont is exceptionally rural. It's not that the population density is tiny or anything. There's not a lot of truly urban communities. Like Rutland is technically a city. Is it that large? No. I mean, the city core itself has I can't remember, 9,000 people or something in it. The metro has like 22,000. Rutland Town is still expanding, by the way. There's quite a few infrastructure projects there, and no, Biden didn't fund them, by the way. But the core of the city, if you can call it that, it's a sleepy little town, basically. Burlington's really the only city that you have in the state of Vermont. The Montpelier, Barrie area is kind of urban. Bennington's kind of it's a large town, similar to Rutland. And you've got a few other developed areas. But a lot of the state's population lives in the hinterlands. So Farmville, up in the Champlain Valley especially, or up in the foothills, they have their mountainside home, and a lot of them are second homers, by the way. Rural voters typically get cast aside as being very conservative, generally more religious, etc. My home state stands as a stark example of why this is not always universally the case. You're really talking about flyover state rural voters when you're talking about like religiosity or the Bible Belt or something like that. So some rural county where the Baptist minister is also the mayor, something like that. You're not really talking about rural New England. You're not talking about Rutland or Burlington or something like that. Rural Vermonters, yes, they lean to the right more than the Burlington counterparts. They are still generally left-wing ideologically speaking. I hate it when people have a beef with rural voters. Well, these suspender snappers with their Bibles and stuff, and they want women barefoot in the kitchen. They like guns too much. Okay, I stand guilty of that. They're uncouth and uncivilized and uneducated. Well, I went to UVM, dudes, and I was raised in the middle of nowhere. Woodstock is just a little tiny tourist village on the eastern side of Vermont. Rutland is small town America, and I barely live on the fringes of that. I can literally walk 10 minutes and be in the Green Mountain National Forest from where I live in Rutland. Well, maybe 20 minutes. So it's a fairly rural existence. But I'm educated. I'm not waving a Bible around. You can look at my username and you can probably figure that out. And I know plenty of other people who fall into that same category. The gun part, yeah, okay. Guilty as charged. Yes, I love them far too much. Well, maybe not enough. I mean, maybe you need a tank or something like that. If any rich clanker out there has an extra tank floating around, if you can get me a discount, I'd be in the market for a Sherman, I suppose. Those are pretty sexy. Or a Patton. Something like that, or just an APC. We'll go lower grade or something like that. Military Humvee, the gas guzzlers that get like 2 miles per gallon. No thanks. Not with the war on oil going on. I think that's a bad investment. Now, rural voters are not a hegemon. It's the same with urban voters. You've got to understand there are core MAGA fans in Jersey City or in Manhattan. It's just that they're probably a little bit more quiet about it. You're not likely to see the coal rolling truck with a couple of dudes with the MAGA hats and crates of Budweiser in the back. Well, it would be Budweiser a couple of years ago. Now it'd be Coors or something. Rolling coal down the street with the MAGA flag. You're much less likely to see that than if you go to Tuscaloosa or someplace like that. Okay, city. But rural voters aren't a hegemon. No voting bloc is. Suburban voters. Oftentimes, there's a stereotype of suburban voters as being NIMBYist, solid middle to upper middle class, generally white. They're dinks and NIMBYists and stuff like that. By the way, if you don't know what the term dink is, it's pretty funny. Double income, no kids. But the fact is that it's not a hegemon. There are suburban voters that lean far right or far left on some issue. Some of them will have more libertarian views. Some of them will be more authoritarian. They probably tend to lean in the latter direction generally. Small town America, so it's not technically rural, it's not in really suburbs, and it's not urban either. Their voting demographic will be different. The same is true of race, gender, religion, etc. There's no hegemon. There's no voting bloc that you can concoct that would be 100% anything unless you're polling a single individual. It's impossible otherwise if you poll on a plethora of issues and therefore try to design some rough category for their ideology. It's going to be impossible to ever reconcile two people 100%, even if they're identical twins. I guarantee there's something. This identical twin, when polled, said their favorite vegetable was carrots. That one said it was beets. You know, you're going to get those differences. The pigeonholing of rural voters really hit a pinnacle with Obama, though. With, you remember, they were clinging to their guns and Bibles. You remember that quip? And you have the deplorables quip from Hillary Clinton. I will note that there is one political party that tends to be more acerbic towards the rural voter, especially when they happen to be white and potentially Christian. There is definitely an overlap there, but again, that's not a hegemon either. You've got rural Democrats that cling to the old ways of the boll weevil and gypsy moth era, and then you've got people who are in the Republican Party. They're straight up urban. Fox News is based in New York City. It's not based in San Antonio or something like that. It's based in New York. They didn't build it out in a cornfield somewhere. That would be a little bit logistically difficult. Again, sometimes you have to deal with city living for your job or some form of infrastructure that you need for your business or something like that. Myself, I'll keep a fairly rural existence. Like even here, I've carefully garden weaseled the little courtyard and back just to be a wall of green. Why do you think that I've done that? I can sort of pretend that I'm in the woods again. It's like a huge-ass grapevine and ivy and stuff like that. I like plants more than I like people anyway, generally speaking. But my views are not going to be the same as the views of other rural voters. Try and find two people who have the identical same beliefs on every issue, and you'll probably fail. That's about all. Peace out.